Thank you, Vidya, for introducing the chat. So, the goal of today's session is basically breaking down all the learnings I've had with Sudipan Sinha for about the past 1.5 years. He has been a great mentor to me. So, I'll be trying to bring in the crux of everything I've learned from him. So, we start with how are you feeling back in college, this time as a guest and as a main speaker over here.
Yeah, I mean, a bit sad because I was about to have Uttar alongside me, but he got too busy with a lot of other engagements. But yeah, it feels great to be back where it all started. Yeah, it feels great to be back where it all started. I was doing the first year of college, started off by, quite interestingly the way we all start, which is typically by creating pitch decks. The business model canvas was a part of the early team of E-Cell back then. And from there to going into several competitions to finally building out something by my second year, and then, till this journey. So yeah, super excited.
There's a very interesting thing that I remember over here. You took part in the IIM competition where you came up with the idea of functional, and 1 year later you were a judge in that competition. So what did you do in that 1 year that you ended up being a judge at the competition where you started out?
Yeah, I mean, it's typically number one thing which I have done over the last 3 years is building very strong relationships. So wherever I used to go, for example, I went to IIM Ahmedabad, I've gone to IIM Bangalore for a lot of competitions. While I did that, and whenever I used to meet people, it was not like just a meet and greet. I used to give follow-ups regarding whatever work we did at Ansnal back then. We were typically in the security auditing space. We used to, do security audits and at the same time build tools regarding it. So it was like I was just very open to speak about what I was doing, because building in public is, I think, one of the biggest things which all of us as students can do.
So I have a very similar journey, at least the starting part. I shared all my updates on social media. Along with that, I shared my updates with almost every senior I used to talk to. I shared a lot of updates with you as well, and after that, we brainstormed. My idea changed a lot of times. Over here, I have a question. The question is, how do you select the idea? Because as students, we do not have a competitive advantage in most of the industries. How do you select industries where students have a competitive advantage over the traditional founders and experienced people?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the industries which are coming up to be the next sectors of technology, right? We are in a technology institute, so any of the new technological advancements which are happening, probably one of them is of course crypto where we work. The other is AI, right? Anywhere where you probably as a student can do a lot more experiments as compared to someone who is far more experienced, has a preconceived notion about the industry. For example, if you see, OpenAI had a very preconceived notion about LLMs, which led them to spending $1 billion over a model, and then, one fine day we all see there's a Chinese model which comes up, $5.6 million invested, far better in operations, right? So I think frugality is what we have as students, and there I think AI and crypto, and there's a very interesting narrative which we usually speak about for AI plus crypto is something where a lot of students can build up.
So when it comes to crypto in general, crypto is known for building solutions for problems they have created. But if you look at Oracle networks that came into the picture around 4 years back, they have a genuine use case when it comes to AI and LLMs. they have a very strong foundational use case in building AI agents. Take it, AI agents in healthcare. You need a healthcare Oracle network for that. So what do you have to say about this notion that is spread around everywhere, that you shouldn't create your problem and you should fix genuine problems? Should we work on problems that we have created ourselves?
The biggest example of this is probably Zomato, right? I mean, none of us would necessarily require an app to order our food from. We always love to go to like dinner with our parents back when we were small and kids, right? It's like genuinely they created a problem which is like humans are lazy. Yes, humans eventually figured out that they're lazy, right? And then it went ahead to solve a much bigger problem, which is the problem of generating blue-collar jobs in India, right? That was the problem which they solved, and not food delivery, right? So that's like an insight which Dipender Goyal told about a few months back. But if you talk about typically like AI, then Jensen Huang has already given like an entire roadmap of what to build next as entrepreneurs, right? So it all started with perception AI, right? So perception AI was where we were just feeding simple stuff into reinforcement learning models to find out some outcomes. Then we had the entire wave of generative AI, right? Where the LLM models came up. There was Claude, there was ChatGPT, there was Perplexity, which was a culmination of everything together. And then right now is the time of agentic AI models, right? Where you are basically fitting small agents for your specific use cases. And finally, we will land at a point called robotic AI, where there will be an immense amount of work in terms of solving manual processes which humans do by robots, right?
So before robotic AI and this transition that we'll have from agentic AI to robotic AI, there's one thing that's really important. That's the coordination of these agents. So what do you have to say on that? Like, what can students build to enhance the coordination of AI agents? So there's an evolution of the agents individually and as a society as well, just like humans evolved.
Yeah, I mean, just interrupt me if I get too technical over here. So think of this in a way where there are a set of people working in an organization. So let's think of an organization. An organization has several teams. So let's say there's an HR department, there's a tech department, there's an ops department, so on and so forth. Now think of a scenario where you have an organization where all of these teams are becoming agents. So what happens is, and all of these agents are executing the task on people's behalf. Now, why would you, number one, work in a company, right, as a human being, is when you are paid enough amount of incentives to do that work. So similarly, if you are driving a parallel over here, then if you have a set of AI agents who are executing a certain task, then there needs to be an alignment of incentives for them. Now, unlike human beings, AI agents are always rational, right? Because they either think in 0 or 1, right? They have no other output to give. So when you think about AI agents, yes, they are rational, but they might or might not be necessarily honest, right? For example, I today might bribe an AI agent either by data or by money, and then might say him to execute a task on my behalf, as compared to what the actual owner of the AI agent tells him to do, right? So that's where penalties come into picture, right? Where not only alignment of incentives, but you also need to give economic penalties to any AI agent who's doing any particular job in the world, right? So this leads to a coordination layer as we are coming to it, where there's a huge amount of randomness being created by AI agents, but how do you control the growth by humans? That's where you need a coordination in terms of aligning incentives and delivering economic penalties to wrong actors.
So this is like one industry where we as students have an inherent advantage over others. Along with that, I just want to divert a little bit over here. I want to talk about your starting point, that was making next. I guess making decks kind of give you a entitlement of sorts that you're working on something really great and now people will work under you. But when you started out with Ansnal, I have seen you go on calls like 10, 15 calls a day, which is called grunt work. And I remember myself adding in 200 members in the original Direct Box group. So what do you have to say on should we make that transition of moving from a fancy tech to building a grunt work oriented service and then moving to a product? So this journey, could you just highlight this journey with respect to your example?
Yeah, I mean, the way this goes is basically after a point you would realize that actually the biggest investment raises in the world don't actually happen on decks. Yes, I mean, there would be tons of YC decks which you see, which will probably raise a few millions of dollars. But if you see further ahead, the raise actually doesn't happen on decks; it rather happens on relationships, right? So that's where the number of calls you take. Yes, you get a lot of data points and feedback to form a better deck. But at the same time, if you keep taking calls with them and keep updating them with whatever is the progress, you're building a relationship with them. Right? Whether it's VCs, whether it's angels, whether it's your clients, doesn't matter. So, for example, I mean, let's say Siddhant, you run a fund, right? You have like $100 million of fund, LP capital in you. I'm a very good friend, and tomorrow I say that, hey, I'm starting this new thing out. You will not even think about your risk of investment. You will just put like tens of millions of dollars into the fund right away.
It's probably going to play the opposite way around over here.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but like just for the sake of an example. But then from there, as a student, we will of course kick off with a deck, right? So yes, talking to everyone, making the deck better over time. That's number one. Second is take as many investor calls as possible. I mean, you could leave talking to everyone else because unless you get a funding right from your college, you won't be able to start, right? I mean, if you're building a business in AI or crypto, it's a very capital investment, capital heavy business, and in that case, you would have to raise an amount, right? And that's where you would need to segregate out. So what I did is I segregated out the pre-seed funds. Which invest at a stage when you just have an idea, right? And that's how we got funded by Angler. And from there to actually developing a prototype, right? You need to have like a minimum viable product out there in the market when you talk to clients. So to a VC at an early stage, you can present a deck. Once you have the capital out, you can do a small MVP, or even without the capital, you can have like a small product out in the market because we are all frugal, we can all build it out as students. And then from there you can talk to clients, because if you talk to a client with a deck, it doesn't work.
So between the deck and the fundraise, I actually saw you guys making revenue as well. So I guess I want you to kind of go deep into that. How do you start making revenue? Because once you start seeing revenue, you can predict a future for yourself and you can take the call of going all in sort of not doing other things in college or working towards an intern or working towards placement. So how do you start getting revenue? How do you get that confidence? Because revenue is the best source of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, market validation is the best source of validation. So the way you start is basically picking, probably if you're building like something B2B, then probably you could start with a couple of design partners to build with. Let's consider that you are building a SaaS tool, an AI SaaS tool for, let's say, enterprises to smoothen their operations. So in that case, let's say you pick up two enterprises. Let's say we pick up Decathlon and Flipkart, right? We just go to them through our alumni, right? We have a lot of alumni out there. We tell to them that, I mean, we have like alumni in the VP of product positions as well. So we could go to them and say that, hey, we are building this thing out. Why don't we run just a free of cost POC with Flipkart? Right? Now, once you're done with that, with the free of cost POC, you have something to show to all the other clients with whom you're talking to. And having an entire POC run out with Flipkart adds on a lot of confidence. And post that, you can start generating revenue in terms of grants, right? So first you approach grants where you're telling organizations that it's like a one-time fee of integration and trying us out. They basically tell them that, hey, we believe in our product. For you to believe in our product, use us. If you don't like us, don't use us. That's the best statement to make in the market. Leave upon the market to decide whether you are a good product or not, rather than trying to push and say that, hey, we are the best in the market, you have to use us and have to pay to us. So that's like the best way to go about it.
So a lot of people actually don't reach out to alumni the right way. I guess the best way to reach out to alumni is through another alumni. So I started out with working with Nishant Bhaiya as well. And I guess he helped me a lot to reach out to many alums. So to everyone out there who's not able to figure out how to reach to alums, get connected with your seniors who just passed out, get connected with seniors who come to college, get connected with the alums, try to build a personal relationship first, and then they might help you reach out to other alums as well. Or they might just host an event, go in that event and talk to people out there. This is a very good way. Actually, capitalize on everyone who's coming in your college. I'm not telling this in a very greedy manner, I'm just giving it an advice. Just go talk to them. Everyone likes when people talk.
We are capitalists,
Yeah, we are. And to be honest, but we are diplomatic as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, makes sense. I mean, in the first year of my college, I met Nishant Bhaiya, went to exam skipped college for 2 weeks in August, went to exam to work as an ML engineer. But the more experienced I gathered was not in ML, but in actually seeing a company run and what to do and what not to do from the eyes of a CEO, right, who's been building out there. So that is, I think, very important. I mean, if you get, I mean, you guys might be having like all of these founders office roles coming up on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get started, to be honest.
So there are these steps that I actually saw in your journey, from the pitch deck to the fund round. So first step was obviously make the pitch deck, take part in competitions, keep pitching. I saw you in IIT Delhi, I saw you in IIT Bombay as well. And then the second step was actually reach out to people, do a prototype test with them, work for free. Third step was you got revenue, and then you got the funding. And I still remember I was sitting in E-Cell that day, you got the funding in the top room in E-Cell, and then Sudipan Sinha comes down and he was just super happy, I'm dropping out and stuff like that. So how was that day?
I mean, typically, there was a lot of reason for that reaction because that year in like the summers, I was down in Bangalore with Ortho, working on raising our next round, working on getting actual revenue. We were doing $10,000-15,000 in monthly revenue back then. We had two choices. One is, $10,000-15,000 in a bootstrap business while I leave college. I could probably make it up to probably $30,000 in monthly revenue. Yeah, a pretty good bootstrap business, $30,000, approximately 24 lakhs a month, right? Small team, don't have much payoffs. We have all the operational costs to us, all the profits to us. But then we had a bold decision to take. When I came back to college, that typical month was very frustrating for me because I was going through a phase where I had to take a decision on whether to go the VC route, where you have to scale at a pace at which you won't do things if you are doing a bootstrap business, where you will slowly grow revenue and all of that. Versus in a VC business, you would have to show metrics, you would have to, once you raise from a VC, you have to keep raising from a VC because you have to give the previous VC an exit, right? So from that perspective, what we came to a conclusion, me and Orko, is if we have to build a VC-backed business, now is the best time, right? I mean, I could go to 28, 29 years of age, I would have tons of responsibilities. And down then it will be very difficult for me to leave my job and take the decision to run a VC-backed business, because in a VC-backed business, typically initially, if you see any of these big VC-backed businesses, right, they don't have a profitable revenue stream. They have a revenue stream, but they don't have a profitable revenue stream, right? Which means that you're not making a penny on every penny you spend, right? Which means that you're losing. So, and that's why VC capital is there to fund that. So we took this decision that we could build out a bootstrap business anytime in our lives, but if we have to build a VC business, it's the time now, and that's why once we got that funding, that was my reaction to it.
Interesting, actually. So I want to kind of understand the thought process of how do you actually work in an industry that is run by people 40, 45 years of age. You're working in the risk industry. Getting into risk industry takes like 5 years of studies, and you don't have a college degree out here. So how are you, what's your approach to this problem statement? How are you so young and yet convincing a lot of people that you are the best?
Well, I mean, that question is not coming to us for the first time. When we went to raise from Antler for our first round, there was this offline meeting with Ethan, who was the general partner at Antler. And his point was, there are some businesses, when we pitched this idea to him that we are going to build a risk and security, his thought process was that there are some businesses which can be built by 20-year-olds, there are some businesses which can be built by 30-year-olds, and some beyond 40, right? And this is the one which can be built by beyond 40-year-olds. Right? And that's where we got very negative feedback from Antler, but from there to actually figuring out an entire technical procedure to build this out. And second is show them the capability that we can build a team which is required for this. So even if you see, like, we are very different from Zepto, right? So Zepto can be built by a very young team as well, right? Versus a company which is heavily focused on research like us cannot be built by 20-year-olds. That is a very strong point to make. But that's where I and Orko made some very good hires, right? Where our initial core team is so strong in terms of execution. Our average age of team is around 24, 25, not more than that. But all of them are prodigies in their own space. So that's what we figured out, that if we are to position ourselves as a prodigy in the industry, we would have to probably take other prodigies as well. So yeah, I mean, that led us to serving some of the biggest clients in the industry. I mean, we are serving what we call the Deutsche Bank of crypto, which is Compound, right? And I mean, serving a client as big as Deutsche Bank or probably JP Morgan is something which automatically puts on a trust and doesn't question you on your age anymore.
One thing that we both have talked a lot about personally is that your case has been the startup dream for a lot of people. You start out in first year, you raise in your second year, take a dropout, and it's very exceptional. And it's super easy to term these exceptional cases as the lucky ones. And so, is it even reasonable to run behind being exceptional, or it's just pure luck? What's your take on it?
I mean, how do you define luck, right? So the way you define luck is when preparation meets opportunity. As simple as that. So what's in your hand, the opportunity or the preparation? Right? So if you don't prepare, even if the opportunity comes your way, you won't be able to take a stand for yourself. So that's where the first 2 years of my college, and even like 1 year before that, when I was into ethical hacking, my work was to work on myself and get prepared for the day when the opportunity comes. It might not have come at my second year, it might have also come once I pass out of college, right? So it's not necessary to leave college at any point of time, but whenever the opportunity comes, and an opportunity is so big, it comes probably once or twice in life, right? So that's when you have to be ready enough to grab it. And if you call that luck, yes, that's luck.
And I guess coming back to your first point, I mean, building in public actually makes us an opportunity to maximize at a very large scale. Like, we end up attracting more opportunities compared to others. Now, I would like to actually shift the conversation a little bit. I want to understand what's the metric of realizing that you're targeting a very important market. Like, is there a thought process behind it? Because there are several people who come up with strategies to think about which market you're targeting. I have one popular one that's always in my head, that every market evolves from offline to a replica online and then digitally native. You can look at currencies, you can look at documents, you can look at probably anything that's there on the internet. So what is your metric on deciding, I need to work on this or I need to work on that? Because you still take those decisions. We took the decision of working at AFI. Why AFI and why not something else? How do you make those choices?
Part of it is, so the way, VCs want you to show a very big bank, right? But that's not necessarily the way, that's not at all the way you have to build a business, right? So the way you build a business is, you pick a small market, let's say that market size is probably 10 or $20 million, you win that market. You find the next market, which is, let's say, probably $50 million, you win the market. Win the market is holding majority share in the market, right? So this is the way you go about scaling, right? So for us, when we were doing ChainRisk, we were typically doing risk management in DeFi. We are still doubling down on it, expanding in that. Now, as a founder, often you have to take some crazy decisions, right? ChainRisk as a business is where growth potential is a 7 to 10 year growth potential, right? Where it's a typical risk management business. If we have to become the Moody's of the industry, it'll take us 7, 10, 15 years. And then, crypto as an industry works in cycles, right? So we all know that, today Trump is onboarded, US is pro-crypto, pro-AI, and Trump is there for the next 4.5 years, right? So till Trump is there, we as a company need to capitalize on what we can do in the crypto space, right? Which can be an exceptional outcome. And that's where I think, having an advice from all your advisors to finally building out some use case of yours, which can make you go viral, right? Because unless you go viral, think of any company in the market for that matter, right? Unless you go viral, you cannot really make it up to the top, right? So if let's say a company goes viral and after that it directly goes IPO, it could directly get a 30x, 40x subscription on its stocks, right? And that virality is something which we need to hit, which all of these like sharks did when they came to Shark Tank and then they did an IPO, right? So that's the kind of virality you need to hit. And when you talk about virality, you need to build a consumer product, right? Because B2B is boring. Boring things make you a lot of profits. B2B businesses make the most amount of profits in the world, right? We make almost 70% margins in ChainRisk, right? But in case of B2C, you burn your hands, right? But you burn your hands to get that virality, right? So are we chasing virality? Yes, we are chasing virality, but are we giving value to the users? Yes, we are giving value to the users by building data.
So before going to the questions, I want you to highlight the importance of going on journeys of entrepreneurship without even thinking about the displacement you might have. Because if I talk about myself, in the last 1 year, I started out with a deck, then I started conducting gaming tournaments. I made some revenue over there, but now I'm back to zero again, making a new deck with a new idea, with a new business model. Is this journey useless? That's the question.
Every one of this cycle makes you probably, more mature as compared to what you were last time, right? So, how many times did I make a pivot before finally landing on to ChainRisk? Probably 8 to 10 times. Right? That's a huge number of times in a span of 2 years. Right? In a span of 2 years, doing a pivot of for 8 times is probably saying that you're doing probably 2 pivots every quarter. So, which means that we were iterating so much that we were, every time we were iterating, we were increasing our probability of success. So, there's a very famous saying where, it goes like, the longer you sustain as a company in the market, the more is your probability of winning, right? Now, whether you sustain by pivoting or whether you sustain on your current model is something which is very important. Now, there's an important point which comes over here is do not start loving your product, right? Because if you start loving your product and you get emotionally attached to your product, even if the market says that, hey, that's something we don't want, you would still keep doing it, right? And that's where the cycles come in. You rationally think about it. You only rationally think that, I mean, think of it like an AI agent, right? I mean, think rationally, think that, yeah, it's making money, there's market demand, make it. There's no market demand, market is the best mirror forever. It's telling you that, hey, don't build this, build something else, go to another side.
I guess Brian Chesky said the same thing. He told that keep launching until you get viral, and they took about 8 years and about 150 pivots to actually get viral. Quite interesting because people don't think that way. They want to stick with one thing and then they want to make it a unicorn.
I think that's like also one of the best things we have as students, right? Because if you're let's say a 40-year-old, I mean, one thing which I told to Nitin back when I was raising my investment was a very strong statement, right? If you're a 40-year-old, you are building a company, let's say even if it's of high sophistications, like let's say this, right? You would have preconceived notions, right? This is done this way and not some other way. You would have bookish knowledge, you would have tons of other knowledge which has been fitted to you in the last 20, 30 years, right? But as a student, you don't know anything, right? So it's like you get whitewashed every time you are trying something new.
This is the biggest reason why crypto has young folks, but it's a heavy research-based industry. I guess let's move to questions now. Let's ask from the crowd.
Sir, myself Pratik Verma, and as you got successfully funded by Alter, how did you leverage that fund to grow further without wasting that fund?
Very good question. Number one thing is be frugal. So we raised, I'll tell you my timelines. We raised our funds back in August, September, right? Until February, we were a team of 4 people, right? Why were we a team of 4 people? We are trying to build things out, prove in the market first, and then go ahead to hire a team. It's a major mistake which a lot of founders do is to get the money in, hire a big team, have no goals. So what we did is we took 1-2 months to figure out what's the technical expertise required in this. We talked to a lot of big CTOs, found out a technical architecture, and then finalized a team which is required for this. Now once we have a team in place, you hire. So there's a very important statement. You hire slow, you fire fast, right? So you hire meticulously, and then once you have a team in place which is good enough, you see whether they are working towards the common goal. So you've decided your goals because you worked on it for the first 2 months, where you didn't waste any money practically, right? And then you now have a team which can work with you on a same vision, right? And if any of these, this early team is super crucial. So if it's like even of 5 people, even if someone doesn't fit here, fire immediately. Right? You have to be merciless, right? So fire immediately. And once you have done that, now you have a learning, you hire better, right? And it's like the same thing which we were talking about. You go through cycles of hiring as well. And then once you have a product out, you pitch it to clients first before raising your next round. This is another big mistake which a lot of founders do, is to once your first round is closed, you go ahead and raise the next one. That's very wrong, right? You need to have market validation first. After your pre-seed, if you are doing a seed or a pre-seed extension like we did it, you need to have some validation from the market in terms of product market fit, which is called an early signal of product market fit. Where, yeah, we have customers, they're not paying us, but they're using us. And these are the few features which, if added in our product, they will pay us, right? And you will get that unique market insight to raise your next round.
Thank you, sir.
So, how have you grown emotionally and mentally in this journey? Like,
I've also been working on a product, and some days we feel like we're on the top of the world. We have done so much, we are so intelligent. And the other day we don't know anything. We are at the bottom of the world. So how do you cope up with that, and how has that evolved you over the years?
Okay, so this is something which is gonna come every now and then to each one of us, who's building, because probably some things are worth the wait, because we build out something, we do not get a validation from the market, we feel that hey, we didn't build actually something useful, right? And that's where I think for me what has worked is typically two things. Probably talking to my family and friends a lot. Whenever I feel the world is going entirely south, leave everything out, right? Just take a couple of days off. I wholly am a person who believes on focus rather than consistency, right? Because I generally work in a way where I work like 3-4 days a week. I continuously work and finish all my work, and then probably if I'm feeling down, I take another 2-3 days of break, right? Where I typically chill out. But that's that's one of the best things about the US work culture as well, right? They work 5 days. When they're working, they're working. When they're not working, they're only chilling. Even if I go to them and say that, what about this work which happened to you? They'll basically involve me in their own thing and tell me to basically chill out with them, right? So that's the best thing about it. One thing is family and friends, and the second thing is have a good team. 5 with your team. We did a very good outing back and out of office sort of team meetup in Bali, right?
I missed that one.
Yeah, you missed that one, but never mind. You've had other things on your period. But we did that. We generally do a lot of events. We go out. We don't usually think only about our product. We talk to a lot of people. That's the best way to kind of cope with this. You have no other option. This will keep on coming. I mean, every 6 months, we ourselves also feel that we are falling apart. And then you have to do another innovation altogether. Right now, that's a fine.
Thank you so much. So Sudipan, you like pivoted around 7 to 8 times. So what's that signal that the time to pivot now? What's that right signal for us to know that it's the time to pivot now?
Two things. Number one is if you start building something else and then you figure out that you don't necessarily have a founder market fit in there, right? That you necessarily don't have the right set of talent to build that out, right? Then you pivot immediately. Right? Or else, if you know that this is something which you can build out, if you go out to the market, you share this with few people. If they respond to you in a positive manner, well and fine. If they have negative responses, you must talk to a few other people. What some people do is stop right here. Right? That's normal. Some people might have negative views. And then if you go to some other people, they have positive views. Then you have something to crack. Right? Some people are saying something good, some people are saying bad. That always happens in a product. But if that next set of people again tell you that it is not something that is going to work, you simply leave it out. So it's basically that something like a clinical trial process, right? Where you are building something out, the market is not responding to it. As I said, market is the best mirror, right? If it doesn't respond to it, it's not generating potential revenue for you in the next 6 months. Probably it's not a good thing to do. As simple as that.
Cool. Just one more question. You just now said founder market fit. What's your definition for a founder market fit?
That's the exact question, right? So, I mean, there are a few industries where people of like 20s fit in a lot, right? Probably, a bit more simplistic industries, right? Where, you could, yes, we could build out some D2C brands in India, right? Which is typically very easy to build out. You see a lot of D2C companies coming in Shark Tank, right? But that is a major problem which is like holding India behind. We are not getting into deep tech, right? If you see US and the average age of people getting into YC building AI companies, that is around 20 to 23. Right? I mean, what in India, the VCs are coming and telling to us that, hey, you should be a 40-year-old to build a AI company, and that's like absolute like rubbish. Right? So while YC is selecting all those people, we should take the bold step to do something like the new technologies. Right? And the new technologies is where we can experiment. A founder market fit is like something similar to total addressable market, how you decide a total addressable market. It might be geography, it might be a set of companies. So similarly, founder market fit is about your skills, it's about your age, it's about how much do you know about the industry where you're getting into, and all of that. Right? So for me, yes, from a knowledge perspective, we were not there, and that's why we built out a team which has a knowledge perspective. Right? From an age perspective, we were in the leading technology, which was Sudipan Sinha. That's why we had better founder market fit than all the other founders who were pitching probably similar ideas.
Cool, thank you.
So yeah, we have a time crunch. We cannot take more questions now. So yeah, it was nice chatting to you, and it's always nice chatting to you actually. And yeah, thank you for being here.
And